anybody has any. We are gonna have a weird spring. There's just no way around it. Unless the courts grant, and it's gonna go to the Supreme Court of Virginia, unless they grant an injunction, we have an election coming up in April. It is an election not for people, but for ideas. Do we want a new map for the congressional districts? Do we want abortion to be ratified as a proper action in the Virginia Constitution? Do we want, I'm trying to think of all of them, there's four. I'm sorry?
The one about the guns?
There isn't one about guns this time.
Okay.
There is one about restoration of rights.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Virginia doesn't need to have some reform in their restoration process, but what the amendment says is, as soon as you have finished paying your court costs and you've done your jail time and your probation, you're immediately restored. And I'm just gonna take a minute if I might and just talk about that. As many of you know, I am a recovering attorney and I've practiced for many years in the criminal courts, including this one. Not often, but every now and then I get down here for something. So let me put to you the case that causes me problems. If they had added on, 5 years after they finished everything, I might have said, oh, okay. Because I believe in restoration. I believe in redemption. I mean, I have done those things that I ought not to have done and have been restored and redeemed by my Savior. So I'm not against recognizing that people can be saved. That said, here's the problem you got. And anybody that practices in the courts would say, yeah, that can happen. And it doesn't happen in every case. But defendant gets 5 years in the penitentiary, suspended after 1, with the remaining 4 being probation. They're into year 2 of probation and they violate the terms of their probation. The judge then gives them the remaining 4 years to serve. That means when they finish that 4 years, they walk out, if they pay their court costs, there is no more probation. There may be a 90-day, I think in the code there might be a 90-day provision, but it's very short. Which means they didn't do what they were supposed to do. They went back to jail. They served what would have been their probationary period in jail, and they come out, and again, it may be 90 days, it might be 180. I haven't practiced in 16 years, so I'm a little rusty. But my problem is, if you didn't do what you were supposed to in the first place, and you walk out of prison, and as a result of having not done what you're supposed to do in the first place, you become eligible to get your rights restored, I got a problem with that. So we've got abortion, same-sex marriage. Same-sex marriage, restoration of rights, and changing of the maps. And that's coming up sometime in April. It will depend on how they get everything organized and done. They'll set it up to try to get it done mid-April. And I will then talk about these petitions. And that makes these petitions important, because what we are doing is trying to make sure that we get qualified at an appropriate time. Now, qualification is around April 2nd. The voting on the constitutional amendments can't take place until mid-April. So if it passes, and depending on what the Democrats do in the state legislature with regard to how they're going to run the election process, it looks like they're going to scramble the numbers, which means the 9th will become the 1st, and the lines will change. And I don't know what those lines are going to look like. I mean, there's all kinds of maps floating around on the internet. You can go look at them. Dwayne Yancey's done a pretty good job of putting them together and putting articles out there with Cardinal News. But my best guess is that we're probably going to have petitions circulated again, or they will waive the primary and go to a convention. Now keep in mind, the 9th District Convention is when?
May 16th.
May 16th. So it may very well be that we go to May 16th, in which case I'll be trying to get hundreds of people to show up for that convention, because you never want to take any chances. The Democrats do all kinds of wild things. They get candidates to run. They encourage candidates, even if they're a Republican, they encourage candidates to run for a number of reasons, because it clips your wings on fundraising, it clips your wings on communicating with your constituents. So I do the teletown halls from time to time, as you all know. You can't do teletown halls if you have a primary opponent or a nomination challenge during the period of that election. Can't do it. So then the Democrats get an advantage because they can't do them anyway, because they're not the congressman. So they clip my wings and my ability to get out there and campaign, and I don't know what they're gonna do on that, but they are facing a clock problem. If they get past the intervening election issue on this changing of the Virginia Constitution for the map, they don't have this problem with the other three, but with the map changing, if they get past that, the only real impediment they have legally is, can they run an election under the laws of Virginia, which require 45 days of early voting in a primary as well as in the general, and get the primary done at a time that allows for 45 days of early voting after the candidate is nominated? I mean, and will a court rule, and now becomes the federal court instead of the Virginia Supreme Court, will a federal court rule you cannot run an organized campaign at the time as well? I don't know. Stay tuned. All right, with that, I'll open up for a couple of questions. I know everybody wants to get out of here. It's a cold night. There's a little football game going on.
I read about a court case going to Tazewell.
Yes.
What's that about?
So that is, there was an attempt, it was a long shot. There was an attempt to have a preliminary injunction saying that the Democrats could not move forward, even in the legislative session, because they violated the law. The court ruled, and I think it was probably the correct decision, that it's too early. That because you've only started the constitutional amendment process, you can't say they violated it, because what if during the session they decide that they've used up too much time, or they get into a fight amongst themselves, and they decide not to hold the vote on the constitutional amendment until after the next intervening election. So I think it was premature. The main thing is they wanted to get it in front of a judge in Southwest Virginia instead of having it somewhere else, because they felt like that judge might be more fair to decide the law. He's at an age where he theoretically could retire. I don't know what his plans are. I haven't talked to him about it, which was really frustrating, because I've known him for a long time. And when they filed the suit, it was before the election, and I was at a rally for our ticket in Bluefield, and he was across the street painting a building. And normal politeness would say that I would walk over and say hi to him. But I was afraid that somebody would allege that I had made, comments to him or encouraged him on the case, and I just stayed away from it. So that nobody could allege any improper conduct. But I think he will be fair, and I think we have a darn good case, but he may not make that decision until, and it'll be interesting to see, he's supposed to have another hearing on the 22nd. That's this week, yeah. And he may very well punt again. I would not say, as I told all my colleagues in the Congress, because none of my colleagues are practicing attorneys, or ever were. I said, this isn't a big deal. I'm not so sure that even if we lose this time, it's not a big deal, unless he says we're wrong. But if he says it's still not ripe, that's the legalistic term, the issue is not yet ripe, and delays it till the end of the legislative session, I don't know that that's such a bad thing for us. Because then if he comes out and rules our way at the end of the legislative session, then everybody has to go to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court then asks for briefs and oral argument, we're past mid-May, or mid-April, and we're getting into a time crunch for the 2026 elections. And for many of my colleagues, they see that as the crunch. And understand that while their attempts to go to 10-1 are the most disturbing, it will have an impact on the 9th district. I don't know what it will be yet, but there's all kinds of things they could do. Something that's not a very big deal at all to most of us. But there is a map out there where they come right down the middle of the district and split the district into 2 wings, with it coming right to the Wythe County line. There's a 9-2 map that takes Wythe County and puts it in what would be the current 5th. And I don't think that's gonna be what happens, but there is that possibility, and takes a big chunk of the Shenandoah Valley and puts that in by going up literally through Craig County. They don't take any more, just Craig. Go through Bland, Giles, and Craig to get to some of the other parts of the Shenandoah Valley, and have a district that goes that way, so the district would be 60% current 9th and 40%, and I'm giving you rough numbers because I don't know what the Democrats are gonna do, where the Wythe district would be 40-60 the other way. So I don't know what's gonna happen because we're not in control. This is all about the power. They're upset that Texas redistricted, and so they're trying to rearrange things. What people don't understand is that this is not a national process, it's state by state. And Virginians went out and said they wanted a nonpartisan process. Five years before they started this change attempt, at a 65% rate. So there's a chance we can win this election, but again, we gotta get people to turn out. It's hard to get people to turn out when there's a big issue on the ballot. And for a lot of people, they don't care about these issues. Now, I think the Democrats have made a mistake. I will just tell you, I think they have. Because I think a lot of people in Southwest Virginia probably care more about abortion than they do Morgan Griffith. I gotta tell you the truth. That makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. I am just one person. Abortion is hundreds of thousands of people. So I'm not offended by that at all. But that might turn the voters out to vote down that amendment and the map amendment. Yes, ma'am.
And I want you to correct my understanding if I'm off here.
Well, and I can be a little off too.
Okay, so.
Because we're trying to guess what the Democrats.
I totally agree, give people out for redistricting, no legislator should draw their own maps. Totally agree about the abortion, but from what I understand from the Family Foundation, even though a barber field is, federal law and Virginia has to recognize same-sex marriage.
Yes.
When they go into the Virginia Constitution and change the language, it's to introduce SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity, which would begin to reintroduce the things that does whip up Southwest Virginia, which is we don't want boys and girls sports, and we don't want. I
would trust the Family Foundation. I cannot give you clarification or tell you whether that's true or false, because I have not yet read the amendment to determine whether I think that makes that happen. It does appear from conversations I had with legislators in the state legislature that it would allow abortion up to the time of birth, based on the mother's mental health condition, not based on that she's about to commit suicide, but just if she alleges in any way, shape, or form that she's having an issue. And I've never been pregnant, as you know, but
you could.
I do not believe so. I do not believe so, but nonetheless, having been with my wife when my 2 boys were being born, I think there are a lot of women who get stressed, get anxious, and start questioning whether or not they should have a 3rd child or a 4th child, or whether they can manage this. And this is basically a blank check to we'll look at it, I'll take a look at it, I just haven't yet. But I would trust, the Family Foundation is a trusted organization who's, I think if they said that, I think you could probably say it's accurate.
Victoria's a good friend of mine, we had that conversation, she had read the language.
Okay.
I don't know if I have the most recent.
And right, because they just passed it in the Senate on Friday.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see how that works out. I know that one of the delegates is gonna try to throw in some amendments to raise Cain, or some additional bills to raise Cain on this. We'll just have to see. But that's why it's gonna be a wild and crazy spring. So stay tuned. Yeah.
Morgan, I heard
Hey, Pat.
that, how are you?
I'm good.
I was here reading where the, on the redistricting, that they want to get it passed without letting the people really know that needed to come out and vote.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, that's why they're doing it in April. Absolutely.
And so they're not gonna advertise it, so is.
Oh, they'll advertise it to the minimum standards required by
Yeah.
law. Yeah, but it's, I mean, how many people are paying attention to an election in mid-April? I mean, we have a hard enough time getting into the polls on the first Tuesday following the first Monday in, November, which is the same date every year. We have a hard time getting people to turn out. It's like your municipal elections, which, and I don't know what it is in Wytheville, but they used to always be in May. Now they've moved most of them to November. Turnout's a whole lot bigger now that it's in November than it was in May, because a lot of people just didn't show up in May. And a lot of people are not gonna show up, and that's what they're counting on. They believe they can turn their people out. They believe that based on abortion and gay marriage and restoration, they can turn their people out to vote for all 4 amendments. I will tell you, I actually think that there will be split ballots. And I think it'll split in a number of different ways. You'll have some Democrats who will vote for 3 and against 1. There are Democrats who don't want to have partisan gerrymandering. There will be some people who go in and vote for restoration and against the other 3, because they don't understand what that scenario I put forward is. It's convoluted, and you have to be a lawyer to love it. You know, and they'll think, well, if a man has paid, or woman has paid their price to society, they should immediately be restored. And that makes sense if you don't understand that they might walk right out of jail and 90 days later be finished with all the duties. And not every criminal will do that. I mean, even the ones who are in that scenario I projected, they won't get their court costs paid in that 90-day period. And you know, their fines and court costs won't get paid in that 90-day period or whatever it is. And so it'll go on a little bit longer. But some of them are pretty smart when they come out, and they will.
So is there a way that we will know about it? You know, when.
Oh, the date will be out there. I'll let you know what the date is. The problem is that it's not going, the state is not required to do anything except post it at the courthouse.
Well, we got trustee old Julie here with her webpage that is absolutely exciting.
And that date will be made public, and look,
she's getting a lot.
we're gonna try to get some
We get the
national money to get the information out. We have political action committees who are gonna try to get the information out to people so they know when it is.
Yeah,
And,
I'll spread it too on my email.
but again, right now, I don't know what that date would be. It has to be about 90, I think it's by law, 90 days after the constitutional amendment is passed. So the clock started on Friday. And are they gonna do it on a Tuesday or a Saturday? I have no idea. They've gotta pass another law to implement the election, or get the governor to do it, one of the two. Because there's not another election already set, so they've gotta set an election.
But it's safe to go ahead and focus on those 4
Absolutely.
constitutional amendments.
Yes.
And prioritize the redistricting, abortion, SOGI, restoration.
For most, yes, but for most people, I would lead with abortion in our area. Now, Northern Virginia, that's what the Democrats gonna lead with, because, and people don't study it to know that we're, you know, if you actually ask people about 38 weeks, I have my numbers right, yeah. They would say, no, we're not for that. But they think it's first trimester or something like that. And so they're counting on turning those folks out for that.
So we're gonna communicate those four proposed constitutional
Yep.
amendments and communicate to people that they have the vote.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people don't understand.
Yes, they will have the vote.
Okay.
And if the vote goes down, then all the lines in the congressional districts stay the same. Same thing on all, the Constitution doesn't change on all the others if they don't win. But, they're convinced they're gonna win all four of them. And that's why they've lined it up as four of them together.
So we need to make sure.
Yeah, and cut me off when I go too long.
Thank you, Congressman. Have you guys heard anything about our funding for our Blue Star project here in the county, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on it. It's not, we're not in a good place.
Okay.
And there are mixed stories on that. It appears to me, and this is a gut feeling, is that they were given clear indication that if they did both projects, the funding would be there.
Yes, sir.
But there was never a commitment except to do the first project, but then they didn't finish the first project because they started spending money on the second project. So they're now short of the money to get the first project. That's a rough estimate.
Okay.
And now it's hard to get the money, which I think is, as the old saying is, penny wise and pound foolish, personally. But it's hard to get either the administrations, and that includes the Biden administration.
Yes, sir.
The administrative branch of government looks at it as, well, we gave you this money and you didn't finish the first project, even though they were given assurances by people in the bureaucracy that that would be okay.
Right.
And the appropriators are looking for money because we're spending more we got. They're not likely to give it to us either. But I haven't given up hope. It's still in there. It hasn't been killed yet, but I was telling some of the folks, the county would like to, if it's not gonna happen, they wanna know so they can maybe move on and do
Yes, sir.
something different with a very valuable piece of property.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll do one more question if that's all right, and I'll close out. And I do appreciate it, you all being patient. No more questions, all right, good enough. I really appreciate all the work that you all do. We didn't do so well this fall, but in Virginia, there's always another election. And I think the voters will eventually begin to see, we did fine in our area, but I think some of these voters will begin to see that maybe they made a mistake. Now that the Spanberger, Hashmi, and Jones administration are in place and they start doing some crazy things, because I think they are gonna come after your guns. I don't think that's constitutional amendment. They're gonna come after your guns. I mean, my 18-year-old is trying to figure out how he can get enough money together to buy his pistol before they deny him the right to do so.
And we've got a Muslim as a lieutenant governor.
Yeah. So there's gonna be some interesting things that happen. Again, you know, people think 10-1 in the congressional redraw is crazy. That's just the tip of the iceberg. And the Commonwealth of Virginia is the Titanic that has just brushed up against an iceberg. We have to hope that their 4 years won't sink it. But I think by the end of their 4 years, people are gonna be looking for common sense solutions that we will provide. Thank you all very much. God bless you. I can stay for a few minutes, but if I'll take that, make sure he gets it. I mean, if y'all don't mind, I probably will head home.
No, that's fine. Thank you for
But
coming
if
out.
anybody has a question, step out here and I'll be glad to chat with you.
Anybody needs to talk to?
Thank you.